Hi, welcome back to A.W.O.L. Today we're going to run through how to get a survival blanket set up so it's easy access, quick to use and available when you need it. Now there are a few small pieces that you're going to need in order to do this. It's really not much kit at all. I'm just down here in Wiltshire at the moment at my mum's place. He's very kindly let me film in the backyard. Weather's still pretty good at the moment. It might change a bit later on, but this should be a fairly quick rundown. So I'm going to run through how to set up the survival blanket so it's ready to use quickly in an emergency, and hopefully just go through and show three very quick, survival blanket setups, the kind of ones that you would use if you're out in the woods and you had some inconvenient camping to deal with. So that being said, let's get to it. Here's the kit that we're going to use for today. So here I've got a Pathfinder 5 feet by 7 feet emergency survival blanket. There's several different varieties you can get online. I also have a couple of Arcturus ones as well. The advantage with the Pathfinder one, as you can see here, is you actually get 6 grommet points as opposed to normally just the 4 on the corners, which gives you a little bit more versatility. It's also very good value for money compared to a lot of other ones, but a good one to set up, very heavy duty, very hard wearing, and really good. To go alongside that, I've got 100 feet of 550-pound paracord. This is from a brand called Fishland. I literally just got it off of Amazon. Basically what you're looking for is 550-pound, 7-strand, 4mm paracord. You can go with whatever color you use. I like to set up the emergency survival blankets with as much high-vis stuff as possible. I use, as you've probably seen in previous videos, slightly different colors for the others. But really that's entirely up to you what color you use. Like I say, you need 100 feet and there's a way to set this up. Take that 100 feet, break it down, that makes it very usable. Next, I've just got a roll of Gorilla Tape. This is 1-inch Gorilla Tape. I tend to have one of these on me most of the time. Very handy to have, but we won't be using too much of this. One of the good things with the Pathfinder blanket is that the corners are very heavily enforced, so you don't need to reinforce them using this, but you can do. And then following on to that, just to do the work, just got my SAK Swiss Army knife. I think this is a Ranger grip 78, just with a nice clean straight blade on it, which is all we're going to need to use just to cut down that paracord. And then a good old trusty Bic lighter, nice and windy, so you probably can't see that, yeah, just to burn down the ends of the paracord. So that's literally all we're going to need to set this up. This is the first time I've seen paracord come this way. Normally they just hank it into this, but it's a bit of a faff and a bit long-winded. Hey ho, comes in all shapes and sizes, does the job. And if you're out and about and had it like this, you've then got a little bit of cardboard you could potentially use to help get the fire going. So let's get this unwound. Now we have our mass of paracord. Has not come out particularly well from that, but I've made certain I've got an end. What I need to do now is break this down into one 30 feet long piece and then 6 6-feet pieces. And then we should have a little bit left over at the end, which can come in handy for other small projects. Very good for practicing your knot work. Now, in order to cut that, I'm going to do this very simply. I'm about 6'2" high. And an interesting fact to remember is your wingspan. So from finger to finger here is approximately exact the same as your height. So if I'm 6'2", that there is going to be 6'2". So in order to get one 6-foot length, I'm just going to come out here. If I go to that there, that is going to be about 6 foot. Now I need 30 feet, so obviously 30 divided by 6 is 5, so I need to do this 5 times. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that there is going to give me 30 feet of paracord. So now what I just need to do, get my knife, cut that out. That is my 130 feet length done. Now, following on from that, I need to repeat until I've got all my 6 feet lengths. So that's another 6 feet. Of course, it would get snared up. Two. Three. 4. 5. 6. Following that, we're going to have a 30-foot length, 6 6-foot lengths, and then approximately another 33.5-foot length or thereabouts, depending on just how long it is. Next thing to do, just got to get your lighter and burn in the ends of the paracord. Doesn't need to be much, just enough to seal it so that the strands aren't going to come undone. As we see here, get those burnt in nicely. Once we're there, just bottom that out there, so it's all nice and sealed up. And then we're just going to repeat that for all the lengths. Once we've done the melt-ins at the ends of our pieces of cordage, we then need to place a bowline in one end of it and a stop knot in another. I'll show you how to do these now. For our stop knot, very simple. We're going to take one end, going to bring it round, place it over the top of our main piece of cordage. Then going to come in, come under and through once, round, under and through again, and then very gently cinch down, tighten it up at the end, and there we have a double stop knot. At the other end of our cordage, we're going to do a bowline. So what we're going to do, take our tail end here, bring that over into a loop on top of our main piece of cordage. We're then going to fold that loop over and pull our main piece of cordage through, giving us this loop here. Then taking our tail end, we're going to pass it through our loop, pinch it together, hold tight here on the right, pulling the main piece of cordage down, and then tighten it down, and we get that there. And for your 6 feet pieces, you want to be able to get 2 fingers into that bit there. So we come up to the other end, and then we have it. Stop knot on one end and a bowline on the other end. There is another way of tying the bowline. This is the one I just showed you. This is the one you might remember from when you were younger. We're going to make our hole here. Again, making certain we're on top of the main piece of rope. Going to take our rabbet here, going to come out of the hole, go around the tree, and then come back into the hole, and then we tighten up again. So you have the bowline. So 2 different methods of tying a bowline. And for the end of our 30-foot piece, you want a bowline roughly that big, about the size. So for your 6-foot pieces, approximately 2 fingers. For your main pieces, approximately 4. The next thing we're going to want to do is hang our cordage. So taking your offhand, place the bowline between your pinky and your ring finger there. Then going to come around the thumb, back, round the pinky, round the thumb, round the pinky, round the thumb, and round the pinky. And you want to leave a solid, at least 2 feet length out the other end. Bring it back round, pinching it all together. Wrap away from yourself, nice and tight, all around and around and around. And then when you come to the end, take your stop knot and just tuck that into the final loop. Which I'm going to do really smoothly. Yeah, there we go. Tucked into the final loop. Tighten that down away from you. And there you've got your hanked piece of cordage. You should keep your cordage in this layout basically the whole time. So this is now what we're going to be left with. We've got one 30-foot piece of hanked paracord and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 smaller pieces. We've also got the rest of the paracord. One other thing we will need for this is a little bit of number 36 bankline, and that's because we're going to put a couple of prusik loops on the ridge line that's going to enable us to keep our shell together. Now here's just a little piece I remembered to bring with me but completely forgot earlier on. You can use paracord for this if you want. It doesn't have to be number 36 bankline, but just in terms of the color differentiation, and also because the bankline will grip a little bit better. Paracord on paracord can get quite slippy. This is just going to grip better. But what we're going to do, we're going to make a couple of prusik loops first. So we're going to take some lengths of this, just short lengths, and make loops. And to use that, we're going to use a fisherman's knot to do so. So I'm just going to get a couple of loops worth here. Probably not much more than about a 1-foot-long piece or thereabouts. That's one. And that's 2. So there we go. 2 approximately foot-long pieces of number 36 bankline. And I'm now going to show you how to join this together to make a loop for a prusik loop using a fisherman's knot. With our piece of number 36 bankline, so we've got our 2 ends here. We're going to cross them over. We're going to take the end that's lying on top. We're going to pass it around, loop it through, making a simple overhand knot, and tighten down like that. So there, got one there. Now the simplest way to do the next, simply turn it around, and we're going to do the exact same with the opposite end. Just going to come around, make another overhand knot there, tighten that down like that. And there now you see we've got 2 knots we pull together, and they'll cinch down very tight, and that's what you're looking for there. This little double barrel there. So that's one. That's not going anywhere. In order to put the prusik loops on, the best way to do this is simply to actually set up our ridge line. Now I've got the prusik loops here, and to do that, the only other thing we're going to need is a small stick. I've got a lollipop stick here I've managed to locate, and I'm just going to set up a very small line for trucker's hitch along here. So I'll show you how to do that now, to set up your ridge line with a trucker's hitch. Taking our end with our bowline in, I'm going to pull that out, put it around our tree, bring our tail end through, and then just let that cinch down, keeping tension there, and that will hold in line. As you can see, the advantage with hanking is this is all going to stay in one piece. It's not going to immediately unravel into a pot of madness. So just something to bear in mind there. And there we go, marlin spike hitch around what is now our anchor point onto this tree. Okay. Bringing our line of cordage down, sorry, our ridge line down, going to pass it around the far side of the tree, keeping the roll of cordage in my offhand. Now, to tie an improvised trucker's hitch, what I'm going to do, place my hand underneath the main bit, twist towards my anchor point, so I end up with a loop with my fingers through. I'm going to take my thumb and fingers, pinch, essentially lay this loop on top, pinch the other line through, and pull away from your anchor point. It's important you pull away. Now got a half hitch in there. What I can now do is pass my other cordage through. This is normally the point where your hank will come undone, and then I can anchor and tension as required. Once tensioned to a point where I'm happy, in this case it does not need to be heavily tensioned at all, just doing this for demonstration purposes, but you can, if you want, cinch this down enormously. Then pinching our two bits together, going to take our tail end of rope, sorry, tail end of cordage even, pop it over, and then I want to bring it back up through the loop that I just did and cinch it down towards the anchor point, which leaves me with this, which is a bit messy, but I can just very easily tighten that down. So I've got a bit there, and then simply just hank it again. You know, you don't have to have a loose bit of rope to hank. You can just keep going till you reach a point where you're happy. Again, tuck our stop knot through, and there, nice neat improvised trucker's hitch. To tie our prusik loops on, then simply want to get our piece of Bankline, bring it over and through, tighten down, and then we're going to go around again, through again, tighten down, around and through again, and tighten down. Now what you want to do at this point is just get everything organized so you haven't got any crossed bits of cordage. Neaten it up. So you've got your two outer bits at the farthest point, and your two inner bits at the inner point, and your little barrels there. We're going to cinch down. There. There we go. Prusik loop. And we can just move up and down as required. I'll just do that. Now, once we've done that, we need to take everything down. So to release our trucker's hitch, it's a quick release. So grabbing hold here, simply pull down, and there we go. That is now released. And so long as the hitch didn't go down too much, I can just bring this through here. And almost knock the camera over. And then again, to release this here, simply pull, and done. There we are. Now we've dealt with our cordage, this is what we're left with. We have our ridge line with 2 prusik loops attached. We've got 6 6-feet pieces of paracord, and we've got what's left, which I've just hanked up for ease. And then we've got our blanket. So we've just got to do one thing to the blanket in order to get that ready to go. And then we'll have everything as we need it to be for a very, very basic survival blanket setup. For the next stage, we need to take our survival blanket out of its packaging and simply get it laid out, ready to go on the floor. For the next quick stage of prepping our blanket, we're simply going to take our Gorilla Tape and mark up the orange side of the blanket. Now, there's 2 ways you can do this. You can do this in the simplest way, which is just simply 3 big crosses, as large as you can make them on the blanket, or you can write out SOS. Now, I'm going to do the 3 big crosses simply because it's a bit faster and easier. As you can see, the wind's picked up somewhat, so it's going to be a little bit tricky, but we'll get it done. One thing that's quite handy when you're doing this is you can use the ridges from where it's been folded to give you a marker of where you want to put all your bits. There we go, 3 crosses added to it. Once we've got to this point, I'm going to take one of our 6 feet lengths of paracord. Excuse me that you can't see me, I'm actually lying on the blanket so it doesn't blow away. We'll need 4 of these in total. What we're going to do is pull our piece out, take our small end here, put it through the grommet, bring that back through, and bring that down. So now we've got that on here, we want to bring that through, so we also have this loop here. Now that's useful because these grommets, as most grommets are, aren't the largest. So what you can do instead is, if you need to stake it straight to the ground, you just stake in through the loop there. So that loop's always available for you to do that. You want it tight in there, and then once again we're just going to get around here, just going to quickly hank this up. Nice and tight down there. And there we go. And now repeat that on all four corners. Following that, now we've got everything done. We've got our ridge line, good to go there, and our final 2 6-feet pieces here. What I'm going to do now is show a way to pack this up into a relatively small space. So first things first, flip it over. If it looks like I'm doing this in a very labour intensive way, it's because it's gotten really quite windy. So now I'm having to make certain this doesn't blow away. All right, I'm just going to come in and bring our ends 2 sides over, going a little bit past the halfway mark. And again here, trying to get that nice and flattened out. Once we've got it to a point here we're pretty happy with, get these bits here, you can start to fold and begin to roll. Once we get up to this point, fold this end in as well. What's this doing is making it fully enclosed, so there's no open bits where moisture can get inside. That will be fully enclosed. Ridgeline goes in, one of the 6 feet goes in. Now we roll this down, so we've got our little package there. Take a 6-foot piece of paracord. You can always do this. We're just going to do a quick lark's head knot through here. Go. Now I'm going to take one end, pass it from my right to left or your left to right, and the other side, which is on my left to your right, pass it through from left to right. That lark's head cinched down, and we cinch it back down, and then you can do whatever you want with these 2 ends to neaten it up. Just throw a quick half hitch in there. Tuck that back under. So there we have it. Now I've got a small, fairly compact, set up, good to go system with a ridge line in there for when I'm out and about. As I said at the beginning, this one I'm just going to put into my car. It's just going to sit in the boot of my car in case of emergencies. I've got another one that I keep in my pack as well, along with all my other gear, and that'll do it. You've got 2 spare 6-feet lines to work with, a full 30-feet ridge line. The only thing I would add to this is, in fact, stakes. Chuck half a dozen stakes in here, you're good to go. You're not going to have any problems at all. What I'm going to do now is quickly relocate to somewhere where it's a little less windy and with a few more trees, because unfortunately the tree size in the back garden is not the greatest. So we're going to hop there just now.